Hi there, it's Jen from modernmedicinelady.com and the Empathic Woman System, and the word of the day is shadow. So I was having a conversation with my dear friend Britt Bolnick of In Arms Coaching, as we're known to do, and this was a particularly awesome conversation where we were talking about the idea of the shadow, and particularly how incredibly important it is to acknowledge and address and heal the shadow within us in order to live our lives in a much more effective and good and productive way. And that life becomes so much more fulfilling when we acknowledge and honor the shadow. Now, the shadow, from my understanding and perspective, is the part of ourselves that we may not want to acknowledge. It's the part of ourselves that we may be perceiving as being negative or dark or difficult. And it's the part of us, it's kind of like, for me, it's sometimes it's that sort of colicky, fussy part of myself that I just, like a whiny little kid that I just don't want to deal with. It's kind of like, would you just stop whining? But the shadow can be our rage. The shadow can be our grief and our sadness. The shadow can be our terror and our fear. The shadow can be our judgmentalness. The shadow can be the part of us that believes in scarcity and is feeling competitive and just like there's not enough to go around. But the shadow is usually the part of ourselves that we don't want to let see the light of day, and we also don't necessarily want to admit we're carrying around, and also is often painful enough that we just want to push it down and suppress it. But the thing about pushing things down and suppressing it is that it's a lot like those old, back in the days when people would use contact paper, that sticky paper that would go on top of surfaces, and you never fail to have an air bubble. Like, it would always happen that, you might get all of the contact paper down, but there'd be that one air bubble, and you'd start pushing the air bubble, trying to push it out, and it would just move around, but it's not going to go away. And in a lot of ways, the shadow is like that. It's like you can try to push it down and cover it, but it's just going to kind of pop over sideways in another location. And it can pop up in a lot of interesting different ways. It can pop up in our judgment of other people, in our seeing it in other people. It can pop up in our engagements and interactions with people. And a lot of times it can pop up in difficult situations and circumstances that keep repeating themselves over and over again, where maybe we're just looking at it and going, why does this keep happening to me? And part of it is because there's a part of us that's engaging in a way that is not serving us, but we're not necessarily owning it or looking at it. Now, one of the things that I've been thinking about is that add to the mix being highly sensitive and empathic, and it adds a whole other level of complexity to the shadow. Because the thing is, not only are we going to be experiencing or not wanting to experience our own shadow, but a lot of times we're feeling and sensing and picking up on other people's shadows too. And for many of us who are highly sensitive and empathic, one of the biggest challenges that I think we get to face, especially as we're first learning how to deal with this, is recognizing what's our stuff and what's not our stuff. Now, here's the paradox. Most of the time, I find that empaths have a hard time with the idea that something isn't theirs, and often will be owning and carrying around and claiming emotions that are not theirs to really deal with. But they think they're theirs. But here's the irony, or here's the rub. When it comes to the shadow, it's more likely that we're actually going to be projecting those negative emotions and those behaviors and those feelings onto somebody else than owning it ourselves. And even as a highly sensitive and empathic person, we still have our shadow. We still have the parts of us that we may not want to be owning and embracing and admitting to. And as sensitives, it's not uncommon for us to think we're picking it up from somebody else. So my question to you right now is, what part of yourself do you just not want to own? What part of yourself is just hard and difficult and maybe fussy, whiny, cranky? Maybe the part that you think, oh my God, if anybody ever knew this about me, then they would think I was a total fraud, or they would think that I was a total bitch, or they would think whatever is what you're telling yourself. And Is there a part of you, or is there something going on for you where there are people where you're just sure that whatever negative emotion it is coming from them and has nothing to do with you? So my question right now is, what if it does have to do with you? What if some of what's going on actually has to do with your own shadow and stuff that is getting triggered within you by somebody else's behavior? So I'm not saying that it's only your stuff, like it could easily be theirs too, but what if, as an empath, the stuff that is coming up for you is actually being triggered by things that are already in there? So I would love to hear what you have to say about all of this. Please leave a comment below. And until next word of the day, I'm wishing you peace. I'm wishing you ease. And I'm wishing you that ability to recognize your shadow, to own it, to love it, to embrace it, and to bring it into the light. So in the meantime, please like my Facebook page, Modern Medicine Lady, and I will be eternally grateful for your help to get this video out into the world. Please like it, please share it, and please pass it along to other people who find it useful. Thank you so much, and until tomorrow, peace.